How is everyone doing? We are back from vacation. As you guys know, I did the NASCAR thing yesterday. We were going to be gone a little longer. Or we were supposed to be gone a little longer than we were. But I just wanted to come on. I did post this the other day. I picked this up. It was actually an anniversary gift from my fiance. She basically texted me and told me, I know you've been missing your X-Maxx. If you can find an X-Maxx, I'll buy it for you. Depending what kind of limit you can find. So me, being the nice person I am, I went online and found the cheapest one I could. And that's not a problem. I don't mind that. It's got some nice stuff done to it. We're going to kind of talk about it a little bit. But then I also kind of want to talk about buying a used RC. And when you buy a used RC, what you should kind of look for and the things you should kind of think about. Because there is some things to look for and some things to think about. So yeah. So we're going to kind of talk about that, and I just noticed something else that's fucked up on this. So I'm going to fix that quick, and then I'll be right back. So I'm back, guys. Fixed that little problem I was having, and I kind of wanted to talk about a couple things. First of all, I paid $600 for this truck. As you guys know, I posted it in my community page, just showing, hey, look what I found, look what I got type of deal. It's gonna be great for the channel. I wanted another X-Maxx for a long time. I've had plenty of X-Maxes, guys. I think this is like my 7th or 8th one. I usually just get rid of them because I move on to other projects, or they don't. The thing with an X-Maxx is it's never really been a project for me because they don't break that often. So yeah. So I don't really end up upgrading them a whole lot. I mean, there's some simple things you can do like motor and ESC and whatnot. And just speaking of that, the upgrades this does have is it does have a nice Savx servo in it. It's got a nice, it's got the maxx ESC and it is running the stock motor, which is a pretty common upgrade for these X-Maxes. I have blown out the maxx ESCs, so if we blow this one out, we'll just throw a Maxx 5 in it. No big deal. It was cheap enough, it was worth it. It does have the Duratrax 6-pack X tires, which were all unglued, so I had to re-glue those too. Not a big deal. But, yeah. So, moving on from that. Oh, and it also does have the Brute unbreakable body, which is really nice. They actually are unbreakable. I've had them before, and I've never had one that actually break. Alright, guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. So kind of lost my train of thought where I was at with things, but I think I was kind of talking about buying stuff used. And one of my opinions on used nowadays, just with how people are and how people treat their stuff and take care of things, is that if you're buying used, guys, you really, really got to make sure that things are actually taken care of. Because you'll buy so many of these RCs and just things you can't see, how beat up they are and how broke they are and this and that. And one of the things with the X-Maxes is, not the X-Maxes necessarily, but RC stuff is people drive it through water. So like, I won't even, if I go to look at an RC truck and the bolts are all full of rust, I won't even buy it. I've had RC stuff on the channel before that I have bought that did have rusted bolts. And I'm not saying I don't ever buy it, but if I'm buying it like for myself, I usually won't buy it. Just because a lot of people look at that and they see the rusted bolts and they think they were treated like shit. And most of the time it is true, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes people have moisture. Whether they keep their stuff in their garage and it gets moisture on it, and those screws rust like nothing because they're cheap junk screws. But it's just something to consider. One of the other things I always look at is I always look at the threads on wheels if you can see them. On this X-Maxx, you can't really see them. And well, I bought this X-Maxx from, I actually bought my 30 Degree North from. So I love the 30 Degree North. It didn't have any issues. I mean, it was sweet. None of the screws were missing, none of that stuff. I mean, everything was great with it. So I never really, when I went to pick this up, I should have looked it over better, and I didn't. So that's another thing. Just make sure if you're buying from people, even if you know them, you're just double checking things. And this and that, just make sure you're double checking things for sure, because you never know what you're buying. I mean, unless you're buying from like a really, really close friend or something that you go bashing with and you've seen the RC truck and how he uses it and things. But like this X-Maxx, yes, I'd pay $600 for it again now, knowing what problems it has or what it had. But you just need to look over things. The same guy, he actually has a maxx too. And he told me he would take $300 for that, and it's a version 2. So I think I'm going to pick that up too from him, just because it is cheap enough, but it was his kid's. So, I mean, it's pretty beat up, but I think for $300 it's probably worth it. He's even giving me like 4 batteries with it and stuff, so I'll probably go get that this weekend maybe. I don't know yet. I haven't decided yet what I'm doing. But, yeah, but then one of the other big things that I always look at is the wheel hexes and things. Not the wheel hexes, but the nut, where the nut goes on, your spline on the axle shaft. I always look at that to make sure they're like not stripped, because I've bought them before where they're stripped and then you got to replace them. And some of them are pretty expensive and some of them aren't, so it's not a big deal. Like for the Grom, it's no big deal. You just buy the screws or whatever they are, those little screw things, and put them on. You're fixed. But like this X-Maxx, the has a couple nuts on it that are stripped, which is weird. I've never seen X-Maxx spline stripped. This is the first time for me. And so what I did was I put the nut on and I put Loctite on it. So I'm hoping it's going to hold. I got it as tight as I could before it strips, and goes over again. So, yeah. So hopefully that holds. If it doesn't, we'll end up replacing it, which is fine. Whatever, I mean, I don't got that much into this truck. But, yeah. So, and then the next thing is, guys, we're buying RC stuff. Now I'm going to kind of talk about online. If you buy online, guys, make sure you're using PayPal. Make sure you're using a source where if someone tries to rip you off, you can get your money back. I'm not on Facebook anymore. I used to be on Facebook. I do buy a lot of RC stuff to resell. And I've been having my dad post it for me if I do that. But lately I haven't been buying much because I haven't been selling much because people aren't buying much. And it's hard to sell stuff right now. So I've just been kind of laying low and keeping stuff that I get. I mean, most of the stuff you guys have seen on the channel is stuff I buy new. Usually I don't put the stuff I buy used on the channel, because if I'm reselling it, I don't put it on the channel. I don't see a reason to. But, yeah. So just make sure if you're buying online, guys, you're protected. Use PayPal. I know Venmo has a business thing now where it's like PayPal. But just make sure that your money's protected if you don't get what you bought. So just keep that in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that RC trucks, guys, I mean, a lot of people with pricing have different opinions. Some people say, oh, well, they should be this much. And some people say, oh, well, they should be this much. And some people say, oh, well, they should be this much. To be honest with you, I think about 3/4 of new is pretty fair on a nice used RC truck. Like an X-Maxx, if I was really looking for one and I wanted a mint one, I'd be willing to pay $800 for one, But this will do. I mean, this thing's in pretty good shape besides the problems I had to fix. So besides those problems, this thing's in really good shape. And it wasn't much to fix them besides the wheel hex. If I have to fix that, that might be a little chunk of change, but oh well. But it came with a nice upgrade, so I don't mind fixing things if I have to. So just kind of keep that in mind, guys, when you're looking at used. I always watch my screws. I always check diffs. I mean, you can spin a truck diff and see if it's good or bad. You can also drive it, guys. If you go to look at RC stuff and someone won't let you drive it, make sure you question that, because if they're not letting you drive it, there's a reason they're not. If they say, well, I don't want you to drive unless you pay me, then say, well, can you start it up and drive it around so I can see it work? Type of a deal. So just keep that in mind, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you want to see me do with this X-Maxx, and we'll make it happen. Thank you, guys.